the 10th chapter. Glory to you, O Lord. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to Jesus and said to him, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you. And he said to them, What is it you want me to do for you? And they said to him, Grant us to sit one at your right hand and one at your left in your glory. But Jesus said to them, You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They replied, We are able. Then Jesus said to them, The cup that I drink you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized you will be baptized, but to sit at my right hand or my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared. When the 10 heard this, they became angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, You know that among the Gentiles, those who they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Please be seated. A word from Psalm 119 to give you a moment for quieting your heart. Keep my steps steady according to your promise, and never let iniquity have dominion over me. Back in 1658, an Irish pastor, bishop, teacher by the name of James Ussher published Annals of the Old Testament. What he had done was he took calendars and chronologies from the Bible and other ancient sources, and he calculated using those backwards and determined that God created the earth on Sunday, October 23rd, 4004 BC. So on Tuesday, we can all join together and sing, Happy birthday, dear planet, happy birthday to you. That's probably where some of the 6,000-year-old stuff comes from anyway. I think it's a hoot to think of Tuesday as the birthday of the world. But I also think it's important for us to live and think of ourselves as charter members of the planet. Now, obviously, not even Bud is a charter member of the planet. That falls to Adam and Eve, I guess, if it falls to anybody. But only if we behave like charter members of planet Earth will there be a planet worth passing along to future generations that come after us. In the very early days of newly created Earth, according to Genesis, God blessed the newly created charter members and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over everything. I like to think of that as the charter that was given to the first people on earth. And I'm especially intrigued by the last verb that comes in that charter, have dominion. Our English word dominion comes from the Latin word dominus, which is the word for Lord. So to have dominion over something is to have lordship over it, or to be a lord over it. And the question then is, what kind of Lord shall we be when it comes to the earth? And if you ever go looking, if you ever need a definition of Lord, I don't think you can go wrong by going straight to the 23rd Psalm, where you read, The Lord is my shepherd. And in that psalm, I think you get a definition of what true lordship looks like. Jesus, as our good shepherd, does not exercise oppressive lordship over us, those who he calls to follow. He is not oppressive, he's gentle. As the psalm suggests, he leads us beside still waters. I don't know if you know this about sheep, but they're scared of rushing water, because if they fall in, that wool coat soaks the water up and they're gone. Still waters is where he leads me. Green pastures is where he leads me. He's present with me. He comforts me. He even anoints me with oil. That is the style of lordship that Jesus exercises over us. That's a definition of dominion for those of us who turn toward the planet. But also it's the one that I hoped that the disciples understood when Jesus talked to them about leadership and lordship. He's having this discussion, as I mentioned, again with the disciples. He says, you know that among the Gentiles, those they recognize as their leaders lord it over them. But to expand on that, he says their great ones are tyrants over them. It's not going to be that way with you. Whoever wishes to be great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. In other words, true greatness comes when you put the needs of somebody else first, and you serve them with Jesus-style lordship. So you could say that of how we treat the planet, how we regard this earth. We treat the planet in a loving and gentle and caring way, not an abusive and dominating way. The charter that we've been given as citizens of the planet by God should resonate with a good backpacker. A good backpacker knows that when you leave a spot where you've camped, you leave it looking like nobody was ever there. Would that we could leave the earth that way for the next generation so that they'll have a planet to live on. And speaking of charters, I think the same could be said of Trinity Lutheran Church and the charter of Trinity Lutheran Church that was signed on Palm Sunday, 1949, April 10th, by 66 official charter members on that day. Any charter members here? Nope, I didn't think so. It's a long time. But if only the charter members were the ones who were responsible for keeping whatever the charter says, there wouldn't be a church here today. It falls to every generation of this church's membership. It falls to every member every year, I'd say, to recommit to the charter of Trinity Lutheran Church, so there will be a church here for the next generations. Now, I've done a little looking, I haven't found that actual charter yet. I imagine it's on some sort of a nice parchment of some kind. If you ever find it, I'd be happy to make you a nice frame for it in honor of the 70th anniversary, which is coming up next year. Let me know if you find it. In the meantime, if I was to write a charter for your next 70 years, just happen to have a draft here, it might read something like this. For 70 years, Trinity Lutheran Church has been faithfully worshiping and serving as a congregation of the now Southwest California Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Connected to God through our Lord Jesus Christ and striving to continue in God's holy word, with open hearts and generous spirits, do you pledge to be faithful in worshiping, giving God an opportunity to breathe new life into you so that you might share that life with others? Do you pledge to continue to give your time, talent, and treasure to support the work of your church and the church at large? Do you pledge to pray for your congregation's peace and health? Do you pledge to pray that you may be instruments of God's peace in the world and courageous in your witnessing and serving? And do you pledge to pray for a sense of adventure, that as you travel into an unknown future, you do so not with fear, but with faith in the one who has promised to be with you always? If so, answer, we do, and we ask God to help and guide us.
We do.
Pretty good. You're getting in the spirit already for the next year's anniversary. Almighty God, who has given you the will to do these things, graciously give you the strength and compassion to perform them. Amen. So there's a start. There's a start. One way to ensure the health of this congregation is to live in relationship to the community around you the same way that we treat the earth, with gentleness, with kindness, with compassion, as we look out beyond these four walls to the world around us. Live like a charter member of Trinity, even if it's the charter for the next 70 years, the same way we treat the earth, with gentleness. In other words, live as servants of others, the way that Jesus did. But remember too that you're not alone in doing that. You are a partner with other churches in our general area. You're partners with all the other churches of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, some nearly 4 million, I think is the count at last count. All of us striving to live as charter members of our church as well as our planet. I am not the charter member of any congregation. I am the charter member of 2 interfaith organizations, and I am proud to say I'm part of those organizations. But with the pride of being part of their founding comes also the responsibility to live accordingly. So while none of us are literally charter members either of the planet or of this church any longer, we can still choose to live as charter members of both, so that there is both a place called Earth, but as well a place called Trinity that we can give to our children's children's children. Amen.